The M43 Walker Bulldog tank emerged in the tense years following World War II when the United States military realized that its existing light tanks were rapidly becoming outdated and ill-suited to the new realities of armored warfare during the Cold War. With Soviet armored vehicles like the T-34-85 and emerging T-54 presenting far greater challenges than the light armor of the Axis powers had. And in response to this shift, the U.S. sought a modern light tank that could combine reconnaissance, speed, and adequate firepower into a single design that would support both American and Allied forces in global conflicts. And the Bulldog project was the result of those efforts, representing a direct evolution from the M24 Chaffee, which had proven useful in World War II but lacked the firepower to handle modern armor and the survivability to withstand increasingly lethal battlefield threats. So the M43 development path aimed to create something agile, transportable, and dangerous enough to fulfill light tank duties without trying to replace medium and heavy tanks. And this vehicle carried the symbolic name Walker Bulldog in honor of General Walton Walker, who was killed in Korea, linking the tank forever to the lessons of that bloody war where mobility often meant survival. And the tank's core characteristics reflected that heritage as it mounted a 76mm main gun, a far more powerful armament than the 37mm and 75mm guns of earlier light tanks, giving crews the chance to engage armored threats at a meaningful range, while still being small and nimble enough to dart across terrain. With a coaxial machine gun and .50 caliber M2 Browning heavy machine gun mounted on the turret to deal with infantry and low-flying aircraft, making it versatile for the combined arms battlefields of the 1950s and 1960s. And even though its armor was relatively thin, it provided protection against shrapnel and small arms, ensuring that crews could survive most encounters unless directly hit by enemy tank or anti-tank rounds. And this light armor was a necessary compromise to allow the Bulldog to maintain its incredible mobility, which was its defining trait, powered by a gasoline engine producing over 500 horsepower that allowed the tank to reach speeds exceeding 45 miles per hour, an astonishing figure for tracked armor of its time. And with this speed, the Bulldog could reposition quickly, execute flanking maneuvers, scout ahead for larger armored formations, and provide a rapid response to developing battlefield conditions, while its torsion bar suspension system allowed it to travel across rough ground with remarkable stability, and its relatively light weight meant it could be transported by air or sea far more easily than heavy tanks, making it a vital piece of America's strategy to project power across the globe during the Cold War. And that global footprint was reinforced by its export history, because the Bulldog was not only used by the United States but also distributed widely to allied nations in Asia, Latin America, and beyond under various military aid programs, where it became a core vehicle for many armies, with countries like Japan, South Vietnam, Taiwan, and Thailand using the Bulldog extensively. And in Vietnam it played an active combat role in dense jungle environments where its small size and agility were assets, though its vulnerability to RPG fire and mines highlighted the trade-off of light armor. Yet despite these vulnerabilities, the Bulldog built a reputation as a dependable platform, and many allied nations upgraded and modified the tank to extend its service life, with some operating variants into the late 20th century, showing the durability of the original design. And from a technical perspective, the Bulldog represented a bridge between older light tanks and more modern armored fighting vehicles, because it retained the familiar silhouette of traditional tanks but incorporated new ideas like a faster traversing turret, improved gunnery systems, and a philosophy of mobility over armor that anticipated later reconnaissance vehicles. And for its crews, the Bulldog was relatively comfortable compared to earlier tanks, featuring space for a commander, gunner, loader, and driver, with a larger turret ring making operations smoother and faster, though the gasoline engine carried a fire risk if the tank was hit, a flaw that echoed issues in other American tanks of the era. But still, crews generally valued the speed and handling of the Bulldog, which often gave them a fighting chance in situations where heavier tanks might have been pinned down. And in American service, the Bulldog was soon overshadowed by more advanced vehicles, but its impact remained significant as it gave reconnaissance units true offensive capability rather than simply observation tools. And its influence can be seen in the design philosophy of later vehicles that sought to combine mobility, firepower, in survivability in balanced measures, and even though in sheer firepower it could not compete with main battle tanks, it was never meant to, as its mission was to be the fast eyes and sharp claws of armored forces rather than the armored fist. And in this sense it succeeded admirably, and over time as newer tanks like the M48 Patton and eventually the Abrams came to dominate the battlefield, the Bulldog faded from the American frontline but continued to thrive abroad, with dozens of armies adapting it to their specific needs, some even retrofitting diesel engines, modernized fire control systems, and upgraded armor kits, proving that the Bulldog's design was flexible and future-proof enough to last decades. And today the Bulldog enjoys a legacy that is preserved in museums, private collections, and living history demonstrations where enthusiasts showcase its mobility and unique character, reminding audiences that sometimes the most important tanks are not the heaviest but the ones that can move quickly, strike unexpectedly, and adapt to changing conditions. And in that role the M43 Walker Bulldog left a lasting imprint on armored warfare history, as a machine that embodied speed, versatility, and international reach, a true Cold War workhorse that proved light tanks could still make a difference in a world increasingly dominated